to get it to work on their particular system. So we'll go through that again, and then that will end up hopefully in us getting the website up and running. I'd like for everyone, if possible, to try to get to that point with me. So again, stop me if that's not happening for you. We can take a break and work out whatever might be going on in your environment that's keeping that from taking place for you. But I'd like to have us all kind of be working through and typing together as much as possible. Although I realize that may not always be possible. So yeah, Slack me, chat me. I'll try to pay attention to chat and Slack once in a while, but it may take me a few minutes before I catch on that somebody's trying to reach me. Let's see. So then, we've got about kind of 3 chunks of time here. We'll take a couple breaks in between. We'll start to get into Git probably by the second chunk significantly, and then maybe by the third chunk today we'll begin to introduce what we're going to do in the session 2, which is to simulate a run of a project team using Git. So we'll be collaborating on making. Well, you will be collaborating with your team, which I'll leave to Tom to split up among the 36 of you into teams of three to 5, and then you'll try using Git just at a very basic level to share changes and to make changes to this simple website and make it a little bit less simple. So, all right, any questions so far? No chats coming through. I guess that's a good thing. Okay. So let me share my screen and see if we can get to a point where we can start typing together here. Okay. Clean up my workspace a little bit. All right, so we are going to be using this tags repo. What did I just do? So, okay, here's the link for the tags repo that I've been using, and I'm going to go ahead and share that link. Let me see if I can figure out how to get chat going at the same time that I've got sharing going. Can I do that? Should be able to do that. Aha. Okay, so that is the link that we're going to be starting with the free work. And so what we have here is a tags repo, and the link I just chatted you is the, let me back up a little bit. So the link I chatted you is the same repo, but it's a kind of a weird sort of aspect of this repo, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So the repo itself is this repo here. So let me chat that as well. So that's the thing that you're going to clone, the github.com/walkwith/tags. The place that we're reading from with the pre-work, if you are on the tags repo here, let me go just to tags in my browser. Let me make it a little larger too. So here we are on the master branch, and here's the files that you would have seen if we clone this thing down, which we'll do in a minute. But if you go and click on this branch drop down, you'll also see a GH pages branch. And if you pay attention to the file list here, it's going to change substantially when you change it to GH pages. So GH-pages has a bunch of different markdown files. You may be familiar with the README markdown, but this has a bunch of other files besides README, and GitHub has a service that they offer for this particular branch is one way to access it. If you check stuff called with Markdown into GH Pages branch and push it, it will kind of wake up and say, oh, you must want to put a website together. And so let me go ahead and compile this with a thing called Jekyll and put it together for you. And so when you do that, you give it a few seconds or minutes, depending on how busy it is. And when you do that, though, then it comes up on this other link, which is github.io, and then there's a your name subdomain. For me, it's Walkwitz dot, and then the repo name under that. That's the format of this website that it spins up for you. So anyway, that's something if you want to play around with, like getting up a simple website that Git kind of gives you, or GitHub will give you for free, then that's what we're using here. So, but you just have to use that special GH-pages branch. There's other ways to do it too, but I'm not going to get into that. We don't have time. So anyway, it's the same repo. It's just on different branches. So what we're going to do is, while we're looking at this Markdown branch that has our documentation, we're going to use it to pull out our basic master branch here. So make this larger as well. Okay, so here I am in my home, here I am in my home directory on my terminal window. Let me say that if you, to make it easier to follow along, if you have a Mac or if you have Git Bash even on a Windows box, getting into a Bash shell is going to, I think, give you a lot more consistent results as we go through this exercise today. You can hit the command space on your Mac and bring up your Spotlight and type terminal, to get there if you're not there already. It's just a lot easier sometimes to work in this space than it is to try to look at a little tiny terminal in your VS Code, for instance. And I'll probably bring up a couple of these side by side as well in the course of this class. So we'll just go with this. So CD brings you to your home directory. If you don't have a source directory, you can make one like that. If you want to make multiple directories, you can use -p. If you want to make something like this, it'll make those all for you. So one thing I'm doing here from my command line, if you may not be familiar with, is I'll be using tab to autocomplete quite a bit. I'm using a bash shell, but any shell, bash, ZSH, whatever you might have there should work with that. So let's clone. So I'm going to source, and I don't have a tags repo, so I'm going to do a git clone of that. There's a couple of things you can do from here. You can use two different protocols. Typically, one is the HTTPS protocol, which starts out like that. And then the format after that is the next path component is your login. In this case is B. I forgot a step, which is up here. So before you even clone it down here, you'll probably want to fork it from mine so that you can commit changes back to your own fork. So up here in GitHub, you can do that. Sorry, that's not my. Be back in the master branch here, and then you can select it. So this may not be obvious. You can click back and forth between these to change protocols that you use to clone down. That's the clone, but you want to fork first. So I'm not signed in. Let me go ahead and sign in. So I'm not sure how it works if I try to fork my own repo, but you can go through here. Yeah, it asked me if I want to put it in another organization that I have access to. For you guys, that won't be a problem because you're not in, you don't own this one, so you'll fork it right into your own user/tags. So I'll count to 10, give you a chance to do that. It should say, forking your repo, it's almost ready, and then you'll be in one. Go to this fork, and it should have your name and tags. I'm probably repeating a lot of stuff you already know at this point, but just want to make sure that we're all in the same place when we start. So then, once you're in your own fork, then you can go down here and you can copy this directly if you want. So we go HTTPS copy. Let's break out of this with Control-C and then just paste that with Command-V. And it doesn't give me everything. I have to do my own git clone part. And I have to spell it right. So let's try that. And there it goes. Okay. Finally, I have a tags repo. So one thing that I find handy in a terminal environment is to kind of clear out my screen once in a while, which on the Mac you can do with Command-K. And just go back. So nothing's really happened. It's just cleared out your terminal history. So you can just see what you want to see. ls shows me that I'm not in my tags repo yet. So I have to do a cd space tags and another ls. I'll do a Command-K and another ls so we can see what we want to see. And there it is. So I have gotten as far as here. And so now I'm going to set up my my web app, simple web app environment that my web app likes to have, the one that we're going to be working with. And one of the steps to that is to make a shared directory one level up. So ... means go up one level in your directory tree and put a shared directory right there. And I've got, as you should be able to see here, a sample of a config.yaml, very simple. If I use cat, I can see what's in it. And then I can do tab, s, tab, config.yaml.sample. Okay. And it's basically a one-liner. It's a long line, but this key value pair is what it is going to tell us what image to use for this image that will be in our website. So just an example of a config that you could specify. So I'm going to copy that using CP and conf tab dot y tab. Okay, then I'm going to copy it up here. So C Command-V. I don't have to actually put, no, in this case I do. I have to put the full name because it's a different name than what I had here. If I was going to use the same name, I would only have to say just a .. shared, and it would put the file in the same place with the same name. So there's that. So now we're going to set up the virtual environment, and we're going to use a Python command line to do that. Python 3 specifically, so that's assuming that you have Python 3. You can check using the which command in Linux or Unix or Mac OS. If I say one of those three, I mean the other two as well. So you can say which Python 3. And if it's there, it will give you a path to that executable. So we have it. Cool. And I need to use the virtual Env module to do this thing. So I give it that argument. And then the last argument is what I want to call this virtual Env. And I'll just for simplicity call it VENV. And so it goes away and copies some stuff in and actually changes my environment as well. I'll show you a little bit about that later and explain what the environment is. But what has happened is now there's a VENV directory. I can do an ls-R, and that's recursive, and it shows, you know, what's in this directory, which is quite a bit of stuff. Gosh, that's more than I thought. Okay, so it did all that. So now it's there. Now we have to activate it. So that's what this source line does here. And I can, again, tab complete. Let's see. Then tab, A tab, activate. So now you see that we're active by this little decoration on our prompt. Now we're in this environment, this virtual environment. So now that we're in there, but we don't have anything really installed yet. So now we need to put some stuff in there. So that's what the Pip Install does. Note that you have to be in the environment when you're doing this in order for that installation to go into that environment. Again, this is probably old hat to all the Python experts out there. So that's going to go a little ways. I gave it a argument requirements.txt, which I had created already. So that is, look at that while it's working.
Should we ignore the BDIST_wheel error? It said error failed building wheel for Pee-wee.
I got the same thing.
Building wheel, interesting. What version of Python do you have? Python dash version.
3.8.5.
That should be okay. No, you shouldn't ignore it. Short answer. Longer answers, I don't know why it's giving you that error exactly. What system do you have?
I'm running on a Linux Ubuntu 20.04 LTS.
Okay.
Same.
That should have everything you need.
I got the same error on my MacBook, Intel MacBook too, yesterday.
Okay. Interesting. What am I pointing to with requirements? There's nothing. Yeah. Can you Slack me the output of that error? I can take a closer look, and I'll take a look at it during the break and see if I can figure out what's going on. Yeah, thanks for that heads up. So how many other people got that? I got 2 people so far. Anybody else?
I got an error pretty far back that I'm trying to figure out the problem too.
Figure out what?
I got an error saying that there's no such file or directory when I tried to do the cp config sample. I don't know what I did wrong.
Okay. Did you do the mkdir space / shared command? So if I'm in the tags directory, I do a pwd to make sure I'm in tags, and then there's an mkdir space / shared, which makes a directory one level up from where you're at. Now I've just done that, but if I ls ... then somewhere up there, there's going to be a shared directory. And if that's in place, and if I'm in my tags directory, my tags repo, I should see this config.yaml.sample. And if I see that, then I can go cp space config.yml.sample, and again give it / shared, but only if I have to have done that mkdir first, and then I also need to give it the full config.yaml, because notice I'm taking off the dot sample from that file name. I'm just making it a config.yaml. So I'm basically moving it to a different place and giving it a different name all in the same step with this command line here. And notice I've already done this. I don't know if you know this about Unix. It doesn't give you any prompts if something's already there. If there's already a config.yaml there where you're going, it'll just replace it with whatever you're putting there without giving you any prompts whatsoever.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm seeing that in the config YAML sample inside of my list now. Okay. I think I've caught up now.
Okay. Yeah, so if you look at ls./shared, you should see a config.yml. If it says yml.sample, then you probably need to rename it, or you do need to rename it to config.yml so that things will work later on. So, okay, so here we are. We're in the virtual environment. Some of our installs have worked. So we should have hopefully gotten this far.
I did find for the people having the Peewee failed building Peewee wheel, if you install the wheel package first, then the requirements text will run fine. I think that was a couple people.
Oh, just like wheel in lowercase?
Yep, pip install wheel first,
So
and then you run the requirements.
Okay. I wonder if I just put it in the requirements.txt, that might also do it. Probably tell me everything is good. Okay, so yeah, you can either do a pip install wheel, or you could edit the requirements.txt. I think that would work as well. And put wheel up in there along with everything else. Apparently it doesn't, there's no dependency connection from these other packages to wheel explicitly, unfortunately, but thank you for that. Okay,
It works
so
now. Thank you.
great. So we've got the packages we need. So now we can shift over to beginning to get our website database up to snuff here. So to do that, we're going to use code that I've written, and please don't laugh at my Python code. I know Git and Bash very well and Python very little, so be gracious. But we're going to use a very sort of basic database called SQLite 3, and that's going to be used by a very basic sort of mapper from basically code to database, so ORM, object relational mapper, called Peewee. And Peewee is going to manipulate this database for us using Python. Is the way that's its claim to fame. So we're going to use Peewee to manipulate this SQLite 3. If you think of SQLite 3, it's in the same sort of category as like MySQL or PostgreSQL. It's a database technology. So it's going to pull in a couple other files. There's a task.py that it pulls in to use this load schema. So we can go to lib, which I happen to know that task is in lib, and we can see load schema is defined here, and it's opening this database file here in the DB directory, and it's reading from it. So if we can actually look in the DB directory, and we can see some schema, which tells about basically what the table structure is going to be for our database. It's going to have an ID field, it's going to have a name field, a created at field, an updated at field, et cetera. So that's what's going to happen when we run load schema. there's some other stuff going on where that it's going to use to create the database. And that's going to, I won't go into that at the moment. Let's just run it right now. So to run it, again, referring back to our pre-work, we can do I'm going to clear the screen, Command K, and then I'm going to do Python. Notice, since we're in our virtual environment, I don't have to say Python 3 because we've already created our environment with Python 3. So the Python we're using defaults now to Python 3. So I can just say Python bin /load schema.py. And that will go away and it will do some things that we don't see offhand at the moment. But if we look in the DB directory, we will now see a development.SQLite 3 that wasn't there before. And you may ask, how can you be sure, Chris, that it wasn't there before? And I'll say, well, I forgot to check, but I can use a -L command on ls to check the dates on those files. And okay, 9:33, and then I can use the date command to see what time it is right now. Okay, it's about 9:33, so I'm going to say this wasn't there 2 minutes ago. Okay, so that load schema has created this. This is our database. This SQLite 3 is very simple. It just uses a file to be a database, and it manipulates that file. So that part has created our database. It hasn't actually put anything in it yet, though. So that's the next command. So this c.py, let's cat that, bin /c. And it imports some other stuff. Not say it's also from task, but now it's a seed method, not a load schema method. So let's go back and look at task. And yep, sure enough, there's seed. And so this executes this script called, oops, yeah. Don't want to copy that and paste that. Try that again. Cat lib c cat lib task. Okay, so that's why I use tab completion, because I can't type very well. So yeah, it reads from db/c.sql. So let's see what db/c.sql holds. And it's just a set of insert statements. And those insert statements work because we've just now set up the table that can be inserted into, with that load schema. So let's now run that. Python bin c.py. Okay, nothing appears to happen, but it has. Now I can't easily prove that right now without having to install more stuff, but if you had installed SQLite, which on Mac you can do by brew install SQLite, then that is a program that looks at SQLite databases, completely outside of Python, outside of our program. It just looks directly at the database. So all you have to do that is to give it the database name, and then you can run commands on it. Select star. You might be familiar with something like this. So there's our 3 inserts that we did in our db/development.sqlite 3 file. So I'm not going to go any further with that right now because I haven't gone through installing SQLite, and that's another tangent that it's a fun tangent, but it's a tangent. So let's come back to our one last command that we've got to do here. So we've gotten, what have we done so far? We've gotten our repo clone down. We have copied some config over to where it should be in the shared directory. We have set up our Python virtual environment as a container for all these, not all these, a few packages, Python packages that we need in order to run this very simple website that uses a very simple PWE adapter that hits this very simple database called SQLite 3. And then we've put schema and data into this very simple database. So now let's try running our actual web server against that. First, let me show you what that is. So this, the .sh prefix indicates that this is a shell script. It's just a convention. You could call it some other suffix if you wanted to. You could also put something besides shell script in a .sh if you wanted to. But in this case, we haven't. This line up top, if you just run something, the operating system has to figure out what kind of program to use to run it. And it takes a good guess, but this helps it to know for certain. This is a special sort of Unix indicator, shebang for short. And that just says use bin bash to run this script. So if you want to run Ruby, you could put, a path to Ruby in there, and it would use Ruby to run whatever code you got in this file. But this is a shell script, so we're going to run bourne again shell to use this script. So notice that this script, one thing it does is it goes ahead and starts up this virtual environment as a first thing. So, and then it can run inside this environment and run our main Python script. So here we go. Run run tab, enter, and okay, so it says this is where it's running. So you can literally copy that and paste that into your browser, and hopefully that just works. All right. There we have it. How glorious. You too can write websites like this. So you too can take websites even like this and make them better. Okay, so that's running. It's, the site should be working. I've got Slack here. What Slack have I got? Oh, the errors. Okay, great. So, there it is. So that's kind of where we're headed to as far as something to work with. So your assignment will be really going into session 2 to take this site and to understand it well enough to make changes to it, and to do that as a team. And some of these changes will be very simple and some will be less simple. Some will be simple, but they'll be interleaved in the code. So you're going to have to use Git to organize and coordinate and resolve these conflicts that will come as you try to merge changes from two different branches perhaps on your team into the same branch in your code base. So simple site, but it's enough to kind of begin to introduce you to the issues you'll see, give you practice sorting them out, so that when your project comes down the road at the end of November, then you will you'll have a foundation for using the tool effectively. So let's take a short break. If you want to use it to look at something in this time, you can begin to look at this section right here under Explore the Code. So I'm gonna cover that briefly when we come back, and just to give you some familiarity with the kinds of the things we're going to be changing. So it's 9:42. Let's come back at about like 5 till. How about that? And go from there.